we came to do.
Hey, you know
Man,
what we came to do?
Look, I'm in a league of my own. Y'all need to leave it alone. I'ma just eat everything. I'ma just leave you the bones. Call it an even exchange. There ain't no need to explain. Yeah, it should be overstood. Like when I hop on a plane and I fly over your hood. Y'all should be knocking on wood. Don't make me go against the grain. I ate my Wheaties, I'm good.
Do you think you'll name a starter by next week or before the first game? Do you have like a timeline or a set of reps, or who's going to start taking first rep, second reps?
Right now it's just been kind of those two main, and Quay's been mixing in with some first team reps, so I don't think we'll have a real timeline. It kind of just usually happens. One guy kind of separates from the other, and then you just kind of move it forward. It's usually pretty obvious, and if it's not, then whoever you feel is your gut, you go with that guy. But I think whoever's the starter, I mean, the good thing is we do have competition at all positions. And so we know if you're the starter the first week, then you have to keep working and doing better. You make a mistake, miss a practice, miss a class, and it's a lot of ways you can use your starting position on or off the field. So.
What's one thing that do you think you'll name?
What's the deal? It's your boy Kelly Flicks, and I'm back with another episode of HBCU Flicks. That was Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. of Alabama State talking about a quarterback battle that has been brewing and brewing and brewing all through the summer into the fall. And now it's finally come to a head a week before the season. We'll get into it. But first, let's talk about Draft HBCU.
So, my boys at Draft HBCU are dropping a new video game, Draft HBCU 24, which is a Tecmo Bowl style video game you can use on your
mobile devices or on your desktop. Simply download the game, play with your favorite team, screenshot, screen record, throw it on Instagram, and do it up. With this style game, it's going to come out on Saturday. They put out Draft HBCU 23, 22, and 21. They've been doing it. Shout out my boy Malik. Shout out Gerald. Shout out Beezy over there doing their thing. Now, let's get into our playbook for today. What's the playbook for today, Flicks? So, first off, I will want to say that this is hurricane season down in Los Angeles for us for some reason. Hurricane Hillary has descended upon us today. So, if you hear some thunder, some lightning, just know that I'm good. And, yeah, let's get into the playbook. Quarterback battle at Alabama State. Demetrius Davis and Damon Stewart are going head-to-head. And a quarterback battle that I think is clear-cut. We'll talk about it. MVPs and breakout stars. So my MVPs are guys that I feel like have to be the best player on their team in order for this team to succeed, along with breakout stars. The breakout stars are guys that I feel like have to develop and really develop into their full potential in order for these teams to play well this season. Then lastly, we'll get into fall camp. We have fall camp updates. I want to shout out to everybody in the HBCU media space holding it down, doing their thing, providing updates. I've compiled all of the HBCU updates that I do have to make this one segment, fall camp updates, for Tennessee State, Florida A&M, Southern, North Carolina A&T. But first, let's get into this quarterback battle. So, as was mentioned before, there's a big quarterback battle going on at Alabama State. Every week throughout this fall camp, I've been picking out different quarterback battles to highlight. This quarterback battle seems the most clear-cut. So I asked this question. Why can't Coach Eddie Robinson pull the plug on Demetrius Davis? Is it the fact that he was one of the recruits in his first recruiting cycle? Is that the reason? It seems as though he has an affinity towards this player because we have consistently seen him underperform for his value as a quarterback. He has not reached his potential yet. And while he still can reach that potential, he obviously is nowhere close to it now. There's been different reports coming out from this fall camp, and there was a scrimmage this past weekend that didn't go in Demetrius Davis' favor. It's actually a pretty rough scrimmage. Mason Smith of Sports Illustrated and HBCU Legends was at the game and had this to say. It was pretty hot, sizzling topic he had to say about Demetrius Davis. He said, 2 specific passes encapsulated Davis's day throwing. One pass was for a wide receiver on a 15-yard comeback. That would have been a first down. But it was several yards short and bounced in the dirt. The other was a throw into double coverage that got batted up in the air and was ultimately intercepted. I would say, look, I wasn't there. I didn't see these plays, so I take this article with a grain of salt. But this is also consistent with how Demetrius Davis has played in the spring, played last fall. He's been playing this way. Nothing has changed. If it's about development for Demetrius Davis going into the fall camp, he should be killing it right now. You got the same offensive coordinator, same head coach, a lot of same pieces on offense. You should actually be better at this offense. And it seems like he actually may be getting worse in this offensive system right now. Mason went on to say, it even looked like the team was running 2 different offenses for each quarterback. Davis was running a run-heavy set, and Stewart came out in shotgun and 5 wide sets. Now, that tells me another thing, right? Because you take some things from reports like this. You can't take everything. If you weren't there, it's kind of hard to take his word like his law. I'm sorry, it is. But understanding how Demetrius Davis has played up until now and seeing this, it makes a lot of sense. It honestly does. If an offensive coordinator thinks or believes in a quarterback in particular, 1, 2, or 3, more than any other ones, he'll take other chances. He'll take more chances. He'll try out new things. He'll try out more plays from the most recent install period. With Demetrius Davis, if your offensive coordinator feels handcuffed, and feels like he can't make certain plays or certain calls that he feel like will help the team, he shouldn't be the starter. That means he's not your guy. Demetrius Davis even said after the game in an interview that he's still learning things from Damon Stewart. Damon Stewart is the older quarterback. So I feel like everybody and everything is telling Coach Eddie Robinson that Demetrius Davis is not the guy right now. That's not to say he should go into the portal and go play another school. That's to say that he needs more time watching football, digesting the game, seeing the guys run around on the field, because he's just not getting it yet. And that's fine. But throwing him back on the field will probably hurt your team more than it helps your team. So here's another statement from Jerry Humphrey. He's from the Montgomery Advertiser, and he was also there at this fall scrimmage. Sorry, guys. So he said the passing game struggled with Davis under center and resulted in several 3-and-outs and 1 interception. Damon Stewart threw the game's lone touchdown, 40-yard touchdown pass, and it looked pretty good too. It was a lot of air on it. It looked good. What Demetrius Davis said after the game, Damon is older than me, so I learned a lot of things from him that I can add to my game. We make each other better every day. Coach, why is this a question? Coach, why is it a question who the starting quarterback is? I think that decision has already been made. I think you're the only one that's fighting it, Coach Eddie Rob. The defense looks good. I heard Colton Adams is a true leader out there, and the secondary flies around. So I'm hopeful for this Alabama State team. But when you look at Alabama State and where they are in the SWAC East Division, they have a chance to win the division this year. Didn't say that last year. Couldn't say that the year before that. Couldn't say that the year before that. But in 2023, Alabama State has a chance to go to the SWAC championship. Probably the best chance they've had. Now, are they going to squander this, waiting on Demetrius Davis to wake up? I wouldn't. Honestly wouldn't. I feel like the time is now. You throw Damon Stewart in there, see what you can get out of him. Damon Stewart is an older quarterback. Demetrius Davis is a younger guy, which means you have more time to develop him. You have more time to draw up specific packages for Demetrius Davis. Why not just do that?
Keeping him out there for 50 to 60 plays a game, it's probably going to put you in some tough positions. And in week 1,
we're going to talk about Southern and they camp. Southern looks ready. They might run y'all out the field. Literally, they might run y'all off the field. If the offense can't get things going, and you're talking about Demetrius Davis that looks just like how he looked this past spring, you're in trouble. Big trouble. I'd sound all the sirens, all the alarms, let everybody know that we got some problems here at Alabama State if we don't change this quarterback. All right, so let's move on. Move on from the Demetrius Davis hate. I'll let that go. I'll let that go. So let's get into my MVP talk. So when it comes to MVPs, Jalen Ellis is an MVP. He is. Without Jalen Ellis, your team doesn't go. His freshman year in the OVC at Austin Peay, he was freshman player of the year. He was a catalyst for that team. Threw for over 20 touchdowns. Had about 25 touchdowns between passing and rushing. Can he get back to that form for Tennessee State? Tennessee State needs that. Without Jalen Ellis, I think that this team is a different team, a much different team. And we saw that last year. So at the end of this fall camp, Jalen Ellis, according to Mike Organ of the Tennessean, Jalen Ellis holds off fellow senior Davion Bryant to win the starting quarterback position. All right, I was talking to G about this past summer, and he really had some questions about Jalen Ellis pertaining his starting spot. And it kind of made me want to question a little bit. But now all the questions are off. Jalen Ellis is the guy. I think if Jalen Ellis has a great year this year, throws for plus 2,000 yards, can get over 20 touchdowns, I think that this Tennessee State team has a chance to go to the playoffs and will probably be a 7+ win team. Now, breakout stars. We got to talk about the defensive line for Tennessee State. Tennessee State and what they do well is play good defense. Also, they catch the ball well in the air, but they've kind of lacked the takeaways, right? They've lacked takeaways. And what I think and what I see with this Tennessee State defense is a defense that's very aggressive, a defense that's stacked with all OVC players, stacked with SWAC All-Americans. And I think that this defense, quite honestly, could be one of Tennessee State's best defenses in the past maybe 5 years. I think they're that good. The difference between a good defense and a great defense is a good offense. If your offense ain't shit, it's going to hurt your defense more times than not. I think with Jalen Ellis coming back, returning into his form, this is going to help this Tennessee State defense achieve and reach the potential that we all think they can. They did just lose Kayvon Pope. We'll talk about that on our camp update. But with these guys, Terrell Allen down there on the defensive line, Jalen Bell on the defensive line, I think that they can change a lot of things for Tennessee State very fast by, honestly, having a defense that's all there, all together, healthy, and is able to compete. So that's my breakout star. Let's keep it moving. Another breakout star, another MVP, North Carolina A&T. So North Carolina A&T, my MVP is Eli Brickholder. All right, there's been a lot of talk. We'll talk about camp talk, about who's going to be the starter. And he has actually been rotating, getting one starting reps, right? So he's not the guy right now. He's not the guy. But I think in order for North Carolina A&T to make some noise in the CAA, stay over 500. We're not even going to talk about playoffs. We're talking about staying over 500. I think it's Eli Brickholder. If you're going to go into a run-heavy scheme, you're going to want a quarterback that's very composed and is accurate. Yeager, to me, isn't accurate enough to run a run-balanced scheme because guess what? You're going to have low-volume passes. When it comes to having a run-balanced scheme, that means that your quarterback is probably not going to make as many passes. And if your quarterback is not as accurate, he's going to have trouble catching the rhythm and getting things going because when you're in a run-balanced scheme, you might run the ball 5-6 times in a row, then wake up and have to throw the ball twice, right? So in thinking about that, Eli Brickholder did a good job in read options last year. He did a good job in managing the run and what they wanted to do last year, which was keep the ball on the ground when he was healthy. Eli Brickholder did end up tearing his ACL last year, was out maybe after game 3 or 4, so we didn't get a chance to see him anymore. This season, Eli Brickholder shined in the spring, was QB1 in the spring, goes through the summer, now comes into the fall, rotating for starting reps. I think he can win this job and he can lead this North Carolina A&T offense to great things. And another quick reminder, he is from Stockton, so California quarterbacks do run the world. So breakout star is going to be the running back room. This running back room is pretty good. Probably one of the best running back rooms in HBCU football. A lot of these guys are plus 6 feet. That helps. That helps. Coach Vincent wants to run the ball in between the tackles along with his offensive coordinator. And I think what helps with that are big body running backs. So a couple of these big body running backs. You got Kenji Christian. You got returner Charlie Dixon, returner Wesley Graves, freshman Jalen Hicks, and you got the speedy Shamik Blizzard. Shamik Blizzard is probably the only small guy out here. He's 5'8". The rest of the running backs I named are 6 feet and taller. Yeah, it might be like that. So the only thing to me with this North Carolina A&T offense is going to be the offensive line. If their offensive line can get going, I think they're going to have a great year this year. I only mentioned some of the offensive players because defensively, I do have some question marks defensively on what they're going to be. And I can't expect something from somebody that I just found out about, right? I'm going to expect something from the guys that have been showing what they can do, which is the North Carolina A&T running back room. They've shown me sparks of being special. Last year it looked great. Bashua Tootin, Wesley Graves, Dixon, they all look good. If they can return to form, North Carolina A&T has a pretty good chance of going plus 500 in my opinion. So next up, we'll talk about Howard. Howard and their breakout players and their MVP. The MVP to me with Howard is going to be Quentin Williams. If Quentin Williams can return to form of his sophomore year, where he was more of a dual threat presence, I think that this Howard offense gets scary. It's already scary because of the running backs and the receivers and different pieces they have offensively, right? The Casey Hawthorns, the Eden James, Ian Wheeler, Jared Hunter. Those guys make it difficult if you're a defense. But you know what else makes it difficult on defense? A quarterback that uses legs. Because one player that isn't accounted for in run fits is the quarterback. He's the 11th player. That read option kills every time. Dude had like an 80 or 90-yard touchdown against Morgan State in 2021. And it looked beautiful. I think if Quentin Williams could get back on the ground, making things happen on the ground, boy, is this Howard team going to be scary. Breakout stars, the Howard defense. This Howard defense looked pretty decent last year, but there were times where they just completely folded,
right? Giving up 40-plus points in North Carolina Central, you folded. You could blame the offense all you want, but giving up 40 points is on you, big dog.
So, in 2023, I need this Howard defense to play up to their potential. I'd like to see Broken Bird down in there making plays like he always does. I'd like to see Kenny Gallup running around into the box, making plays in the air on balls. I'd like to see him creating turnovers. This Howard defense has a lot of potential. But even with the potential they have on the defense, you're going to have to win games if you want to convince me that you're one of the best defenses in HBCU football, right? If you're a Celebration Bowl team, odds are you have one of the best defenses in HBCU football. We saw that last year with Central and Jackson State, the year before with Jackson State, South Carolina State. We continue to see this. There's a method to the madness. Howard has the offense. Can they bring the defense to complement such an offense? That's the big question for Howard. So their breakout star to me is going to be the defense. Can the Howard defense stand up and be who we think they are? This Howard defense, along with Kenny Gallup, also returned Robert Jones on the back end. And another guy I've been told has been making a lot of plays is Xavier Robo. Make some noise out there flying around. So I'm excited about Howard and what they can do this year. We'll see their first 5 games are a little tough. They have a couple FBS opponents, but they do have some FCS opponents sprinkled in there. We'll see how they do. Now, lastly, where's my Morgan State? I see. We got to do Morgan State. That's what we're not going to skip them. Let me pull in Morgan State real fast, you guys. Don't worry about nothing. Because with Morgan State, they have some players that are going to really open the eyes of a lot of guys in the MEAC. So here we go. Here's Morgan State here. Morgan State, man. The MVP to me is going to be J.J. Davis. I was talking to my boy Kobe over at HBCU Game Day, and he was telling me about J.J. Davis and why he's really excited about J.J. Davis. And it's pretty simple. He has his old offensive coordinator from Norfolk State. Coach B.T. Sherman moves over from Norfolk State over to Morgan State, and he's beginning to bring together the talent that he did at Norfolk State, right? At Norfolk, he brought together a bunch of talent with Davis, Daquan Felton, you got just a litany of guys. Raquan Smith. That Norfolk State team of 2022 was stacked, right? That was the B.T. Sherman offense. Slowly but surely, he'll bring his offense over to Morgan State. This year, they don't have all the pieces. They're missing pieces to me. I think they're missing a couple receivers, some tight ends to really make this thing go, even a quarterback to make this thing go. But at running back, last year we saw with Morgan State, Alfonso Graham kept them afloat. The running game can keep this team afloat. That's kind of how they're made. So, in understanding that, if this running back, J.J. Davis, could give us maybe 80% of his best Alfonso Graham impression, I think he and the rest of this running back room will make Morgan State a competitive team. Last year, Alfonso Graham ran for 1,000 yards. J.J. Davis could give us like 800. If I could see more out of these backup running backs, Jabril Johnson and the Keith Jenkins and the Miles Murray, if I can see more from these guys too, then you get dangerous. Then Morgan State becomes a dangerous team. Because we saw what the running game can do to a lot of MEAC teams with what Howard did last year with Ian Wheeler, Jared Hunter, and Eden James. We saw what a deadly rush attack could do to the MEAC. If Morgan State can somehow replicate this with the running back room that they have now, I can see Morgan State trying to contend in the MEAC. I'm not ready to say they're contenders yet, but I can say they could try to contend. And I think that getting +6 wins would probably be a great goal for this Morgan State team. Breakout star. Defensively, Lawrence Richardson was probably one of the best defensive players on Morgan State last year. Probably was. That defense was littered with great players. You got a guy right next to him, Eric Hunter, 6'4" linebacker that gets the job done. You got Jordan Toes behind him that gets the job done. You got Jatavian Morton that gets it done. Carvlancis Decius that gets it done. You even got guys on the defensive line that get it done. So what I'm saying is very easy to be overshadowed in such a great defense, but he's a gem. Lawrence Richardson is a guy that, if you like Aubrey Miller, Lawrence Richardson is a guy that I think will have a chance in the NFL in a year or two. He and Eric Hunter, I think, both have great potential at linebacker. I think if Lawrence Richardson can make that next leap at linebacker, right, become MEAC Defensive Player of the Year worthy, then Morgan State becomes a contender, no matter how good the offense is. If the defense is that good, you're straight. You're straight. You just figure it out on offense. Because on offense, you have a pretty good rushing attack. You can play ball control with a lot of different teams if you can control the line of scrimmage. And I think this Morgan State team can control the line of scrimmage. And if they have a tackling machine, a guy that gets everywhere, can make plays, create turnovers like Lawrence Richardson, and he's doing that, Morgan State's not a contender. I think that's what puts them into contender status. They're going to need this MVP. They're going to need this breakout star. I don't think Carson Baker is going to be the breakout star for Morgan State this year. Sorry, can't see it. But these guys are proven. I just need them to take it up another notch this season. So let's get into some camp updates. We got plenty of camp updates. We'll start off with our North Carolina A&T update. So I want to shout out to Blue Death Valley, for one, because they did give me some of this information on here when it comes to figuring out what's going on, who's who. Blue Death Valley was able to sneak into North Carolina A&T Truist Stadium. Got to look at some of the practices until they were ultimately shut out. So shout out to y'all for doing that good work that we all need, sacrificing for the media and to help us figure out what the hell is going on down there, right? That's the biggest question. What is going on at North Carolina A&T? So here are some impact players for this season coming up. Karan Prunty, definitely a lockdown corner, more of a cover guy, but a lockdown corner out there. Charlie Dixon, running back, another running back. Kenji Christian, transfer running back. Those two running backs, I feel like we're going to be the guys on offense, right? And then we got Jamison Warren, a receiver that returns from injury. I was told he has a red jersey on now, but he's returning from an injury, a season-ending injury last year. So he's looking to get into form this year. We'll see if he's ready to go at the start of the season. I know he's non-contact right now. So from North Carolina A&T, some of the notes we got. So the quarterback battle is still progressing. Quarterback battle is still between Zach Yeager and between Eli Brickholder going into week 1. It's going to be an interesting match because we did get to see a lot of Zach Yeager last year. We got to see a lot of him, like a lot, bro. I think he may have played the most out of all 3 quarterbacks last year. We did get to see Eli Brickholder last year also. He played well in the first 3 games, going against Duke and North Dakota State, some of the toughest games on their schedule last year. With a coach like Vincent Brown, a defensive-minded head coach, usually defensive-minded head coach like conservative quarterbacks. They like quarterbacks that make the right play, that are on time, that don't turn the ball over. A lot of times, your defensive-minded head coach won't pick a gunslinger at quarterback. So, lucky for us, our guy, Eli Brickholder, isn't really a gunslinger. He's actually not. He's actually more of the managing side, and he has a strong arm, of course, but I wouldn't call him a gunslinger necessarily. He kind of works better in a run-pass offense, RPO offense, excuse me. He works better in the RPO offense, and I think that his North Carolina A&T offense could work in his favor, given the fact that I'm not sure if North Carolina A&T is going to bully a lot of different teams in the CAA, and running the ball will work sometimes. There's going to be times in the game where you need more play action than normal. Eli Brickholder does a great job at play action, and I think that he would excel at this role of quarterback, game managing this North Carolina A&T offense. Another thing, a hot take I got right here. Woo-wee! I can't wait to see North Carolina A&T actually get out there on the field. But right now, I am starting to feel like A&T does have a better chance against Central. right? And last week I was saying it was 50-50. I do kind of feel like it's 50-50, but I feel even stronger towards A&T, right? Because A&T and their type of offense, the type of team that they are putting together, is like the Antichrist to North Carolina Central. Literally. Central doesn't play well against run-heavy teams. We saw against Campbell last year. They don't play well against run-heavy teams. Now, there aren't too many run-heavy teams throughout college football. Teams that will literally, like, sell out for the run. There aren't that many of them. I think A&T is going to be one of them this year, though. Offensively, I think they've bought into this whole offensive system. We're going to just nut up, leave our splits foot to foot, and we're going right at you. We're going to hit you in the mouth offensively, right? We're going to hit you in the mouth offensively. Now, can Central take this brunt on from their front seven? Central's front seven ain't that big, right? They aren't the guys that really dig into the trenches. They more so feed off their back seven, right? They feed on their DBs, the Khalil Baker's back there, Juwan Johnson's back there. Those guys are guys that make more plays. Now, if A&T can control the line of scrimmage, I think it's going to be a long day for Central, and they almost can keep the ball out of Davius Richards' hands by running the ball so much. Just a side note. All right, but other than closed practices, that's most of what I got. Oh, also, Craig Turner of Blue Death Valley made it known that the offensive coordinator from North Carolina A&T was previously at Colgate as offensive coordinator in 2018. And while he was at coordinator there, they were super run balanced, and they ran more of a West Coast passing scheme, right? More of a sprint out, quick outs, quick ins, quick passes, but more on the Deacon Dup side, quarterback wise. Rushing the ball, running back wise, they're more downhill. They want to take up a lot of time, and they want to do a lot of power run plays. So this A&T offense is going to look similar to what we saw last year as far as, run to pass percentage. But I think it's going to be less jump ball like we kind of saw the past 5 years. And it's going to be more predicated on wide receivers that can get great rack. If you can get some great rack, you got to place this A&T offense. So moving on from A&T, we'll go from A&T back to Tennessee State, keep it on the independents. So with Tennessee State, Mike Organ of the Tennessean, as I said earlier, he updated us along with a couple other guys, but he was the main guy updating us on the quarterback battle down at Tennessee State. But what alarms me the most about Tennessee State, and I've been a champion in Tennessee State ever since my way too early predictions. I have championed Tennessee State. I think Tennessee State has a great chance, and they have a lot of potential to make to the FCS playoffs. If everything goes right, right? If it was a perfect world, everybody was healthy, everything made sense, talent-wise, they looked apart. Do I think they'll make the playoffs this year? No. Flat out, no. I don't think A&T will make it either. I don't think any HBCU independent program will make it to the FCS playoffs this year. No, I don't see it. I don't see it at all. But side note. The real reason why I don't think Tennessee State is going to do this is because their offensive line is so bad. Like, that offensive line was terrible last year, bro. It got Jalen Ellis hurt against Jackson State, tore up his ankle. And this year, they only have one returning starter on the offensive line. And that's the center. Not sure if that's a good or a bad thing, because now that means that this year your offensive line is literally going to be patchwork. Going through the guys that were listed, Darrell Branch, a 2021 transfer from Arizona. So he's been with the program, but he's a transfer. Romello Tarver, played previously at Central Michigan and at McNeese. All right. You got Alex Valbuena, a redshirt freshman from Ezel Harding. You got Arion Harvey, 6'5", 300-pound transfer from Austin Peay. So you got a mixed bag, super mixed bag. And if anybody knows football, understands offensive lines, they'll tell you that the best offensive lines aren't the biggest ones. They're the ones with the most chemistry. The offensive lines that move in sequence. When the center moves to the left guard moves to the left, you know what I mean? The left tackle moves to the left, the right guard moves to the left, the right tackle. When everybody is in sequence together, that is your best offensive line. Your best offensive line ain't the heaviest one. I say that to say this. I'm not sure about the Tennessee State offense anymore. I'm be real with y'all. I'm not sure about this Tennessee State offense anymore. If this offensive line is as bad as it looks on paper, they in for a long year. A really long year. That's going to start with them getting attacked by Notre Dame. Notre Dame is going to pounce on them. If your O-line ain't in shape now, and we about a week before the season, buddy, you're in trouble. Sorry I didn't notice this earlier, guys, when it comes to offensive lines, but one thing about offensive line is you're really not going to know about how good they're going to be until fall camp, right? And then week 1, 2, 3, you get to learn if they're good or bad. But in fall camp, you'll quickly understand whether or not your offensive line even has a chance this year. And I'm going to keep it real. I don't think this offensive line has a chance on me. I really don't. So we'll keep an eye on this. Offensively, skill position-wise, they look great. Up front, it's going to be the questions. Defensively up front, they look great. Terrell Allen, Jalen Bell still down there amongst other guys that are returning. Even Eric George, Coach Eddie George's son, is now on the team, and he's looking to be like he might be a standout at defensive end. So the defensive line looks good. The defense is straight. I mean, you got 5 key starters on the back end. Even think about James Green back there, Josh Green, his brother, Fondre Hillis third. You got Bryce Phillips back there still too. You still got you bring back Boogie Trotter back there at safety also, who's gonna be on the sophomore year. I think he's gonna be great this year. So, I mean, even Monroe Beard also transferred from UAPB. You got so many options defensively. Offensively, it's such a letdown to look at that offensive line. Oh my goodness! But defensively, it looked good. If they can figure out offensive line, I think they have a chance this year. Let's keep it moving, though. Let's keep it moving. Let's talk about. Oh, dang, we skipped one, y'all. Dang it. So I'll go ahead and turn on now then. So we skipped Southern's MVP, man. Excuse me. So Southern's MVP and, well, not the MVP. Southern's camp update. I'm sorry, I was saying MVP. Southern's camp update. Do I have MVPs for them this week? I don't think so. Let me make sure. Let's make sure. Yeah, no, we don't. Only Howard, Morgan State, Tennessee State, A&T. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that, guy. I titled it wrong. But Southern and their camp situation. So here's their camp situation. I'll name their impact players, and then we'll check out this latest scrimmage they just had. That is posted by BR Proud News, and we'll react to that. Then we'll get into the thick of it, right? So impact players, J.R. Blood, been named the starting quarterback since the spring. So I'm going to name him your impact player. I don't like the way he throws the ball. He pushes the ball out. It looks a little funny, but if he's your guy, he's your guy. And at Southern, you're going to expect your quarterback to be the catalyst. In the Eric Dooley offense, the quarterback has to be the man. We've seen that from Jawan Pass at Prairie View A&M. We've seen that last year with Bashawn McCray. Your quarterback has to be the guy. The offense starts and finishes with him. So J.R. Blood's a guy. I'm expecting him to be an impact player this year. Jalen Howard, transfer from Prairie View A&M to Southern this year, has been ringing a lot of bells this year, man. In fall camp, a lot of people have been talking about him. He's been the talk of the town. He's very shifty. He's very elusive. I have long thought that Southern needs a nice slot receiver to go with the Petrie's out there, the 6'5" wide receivers they got. And I think Jalen Howard fits in just perfect. I heard he's been looking good. The running back core, just like last year and the year before, has been one of the focal points of this offense. And they look good. They're stacked. Then Jaden Carter. Jaden Carter out there at DB has been an X factor for Southern. He and Christian Davis are going to really have a big role in this Southern defense this year, and I look for them to make some big plays. So, without further ado, let's check out their latest scrimmage. Southern just had a scrimmage this past weekend, and their running backs went crazy. Let's listen in to Proud BR News.
Things rolling. He won't be stopped. He takes it to the house, showing why he was an all-SWAC running back at Alabama A&M. Next drive.
Let's pause that. So that was Gary Quarles. Gary Quarles transferred from Alabama A&M. There were some questions about why he went there, and I wasn't sure why he went there with so many running backs, but he's seeming to set himself apart from the rest of this crowd at Southern.
Terrell Blood, the new QB1. It's George Coles over the middle for a quick score. It's now 14-0. Starters in this one. The Twos respond in a big way. Backup quarterback Noah Bowden finds Khalil Harris.
That was a dot.
Stride the Grambling
I like that.
Finally brought down inside the 5-yard line, and then the very next play, watch this.
Grambling to Grambling connection now.
He rolls out, connects with a wide-open Cameron Johnson in the end zone. First score of the ball game for the blue team. Our very own Pat Timlin wraps this one up from the Bluff.
All right, man. So, yeah, got a couple looks at Noah Bowden and what he was doing out there. And he looked pretty good, too. I'm not going to lie. His problem at Grambling was his accuracy. Spring game's accuracy was all over the place because he has such a strong arm. It seems like he trusts his arm a little bit too much, and it gets him into sticky situations. So he looked much better in this game. What I will say about Southern is this is still the team to beat. This is still the team to beat in the SWAC West. I did put a preview over them and my predictions for the SWAC West finishes, but I do think that Southern is a team to beat. I don't think it's even close. Let's listen in to Hero Blood real fast. He has some pretty cool things to say and talking about that running back room.
They all ran effectively. They were able to be short down backs and long down backs, so versatile.
They're not concerned with who gets it. It's just as a team, they're working together and understanding and excited for that next guy if he has a long run. When you got guys like that fighting for other guys and when they get the opportunity to try to do the same thing, I think you got a team that's playing as one.
I mean, it's starting to make a lot of sense for me with the Southern team. Close to the season, you start to realize people separate, teams separate. It seems like Southern is beginning to separate, and they're starting to show that. Last spring, we kind of saw Southern separate, right? The spring game, it came out, and now we're watching like 4 verts from Southern. We're watching 40-yard touchdowns, 50-yard touchdowns, big runs by Carl Ligon. We're seeing all types of things, and that's really when a team shows you that they're setting themselves apart, right? You just got to watch for the big plays. You watch for the team and see who's growing. If teams are still answering questions like a week before the season, they probably aren't going to be good, right? Southern ain't answering too many questions right now, right? They just adding. They talking about Gary Quarles. They got Kobe Dillon along with 4 other dudes back there, Kendrick Rhymes, all types of guys. And they talking about the transfer they got last week. So that tells me that Southern is adding talent, right? They have their talent solidified. They have their team solidified. They're just adding guys into their system, into their formula. All right, so who we got? So, Locan, that's all I got for Southern. Let's make sure that's all I got for Southern. Shout out to the Carlos Brown show, man. Shout out to Carlos Brown, man. I'll be watching you, homie. I'll be watching you. And he was the one that reported on Jalen Howard for sure. What else are we looking at? Talk about scheduling down the road. No need to talk about scheduling today, but Roman Banks hopped on Carlos Brown's show this past week and talked about scheduling, which is real interesting. I guess I might as well bring it up. When talking about scheduling, they asked why Southern scheduled 2 SWAC schools. What was the thinking behind it? And the athletic director, Roman Banks, said that the reason why we're scheduling SWAC schools and not these other FCS schools that are close and in the vicinity of us like McNeese and Northwestern State is the fact that we weren't operating with all of our scholarships, athletic scholarships in every sport. So across the board at Southern, Roman Banks has tried to ensure that there's an even playing field amongst teams that come to Southern or they go to Southern, which I thought was kind of interesting because last year they played LSU, right? So maybe that was already written or already put in the contract years and years ago. But now Southern seems to have their full scholarship allotment in every sport. And Mr. Roman Banks, now says that Southern is honestly able to play against anybody, right? They are not scared to touch any team because they have their full scholarship allotment now. Previously, they were actually operating under the required number of scholarships, right? So now they're finally back on track. So I like to see Southern playing even more bigger games going forward. I have been told that they are like they have the showmanship in the SWAC, right? And they are the big dogs in the SWAC. They are the blue bloods. I believe it. They're proving it year in, year out. So what else we got? Florida A&M. Let's get into Florida A&M. Last but not least, Florida A&M. So with Florida A&M, impact players, Jeremy Musa, of course, the best quarterback in the SWAC last year, threw for plus 3,000 yards. No quarterback, not plus 3,000. I'm tripping. Plus 2,000 yards. No quarterback in the SWAC has thrown for plus 2,000 yards last season other than Shador Sanders, who has untimely transferred to Colorado, right? So Isaiah Major, another impact player, a great defensive player that plays linebacker. I thought was the best defensive player in the SWAC going into the season, but apparently it's Sunday Out Anderson. And then you got Gentle Hunt, another great defensive lineman that does his thing at nose tackle and can really play the 3-tech also. Then we got Jalen Goss. Jalen Goss is the big tackle for Florida A&M right now. Florida A&M And their offensive line improvements have looked great. You know, they bring in Cardell Thomas, big 5-star transfer from LSU. He looks good. Jalen Goss looks good. They brought in some other guys inside into the interior that has really added to this Florida A&M offensive line. Right? We talk about some teams. I just talked about Tennessee State where they got a bunch of patchwork going on the offensive line. Well, Florida A&M has one of the best offensive lines in HBCU football. I think that the improvements this past year put them in the SWAC championship consideration. It made them contenders. And now they're starting to reap those benefits. Other teams in the SWAC are scrambling and trying to figure out their offensive line. We saw how long it took Jackson State to figure out their offensive line under Coach Prime. Coach Willie Simmons has seemingly figured that out. He's gotten the guys that he wants. Now, the only question is going to be, is this offensive line better at pass blocking or run blocking? Because, quite honestly, last year we saw a lot of drop-back passes from Florida A&M, even though Coach Willie Simmons said that he would like to keep it balanced, run and pass. It wasn't much balance, right? So if this group can pass block very well for Jeremy Musa and set up this pocket, hey, sky's the limit for FAMU, and they might be on their way to a Celebration Bowl. Now, Musa's development. Talking around town has been about Musa's development. So G. Thomas, who is down there reporting on for the A&M with the Tallahassean, I believe, he has been keeping us updated. Keeps us updated on practices day to day and really how these different touchdowns are being scored, who's doing what. And what I've seen is that Jeremy Musa has been spreading the ball out around to every receiver at Florida A&M. All of them. I mean, everybody's getting a look. It's not just Marcus Riley. It's not just Jeremiah Pruitt. It's all the guys. It's Oxidine still getting looks. It's Juke still getting looks. He's beginning to spread the ball more like we've been asking for, right? Last year we saw him pretty much zero down Xavier Smith and give him the ball anytime he can. And look, just do. I mean, shit, Xavier Smith right now is playing for the Los Angeles Rams. So it makes sense. I think any other quarterback would do that too. Moving forward, though, definitely does have to develop the skills to read the whole field. He definitely has to make more plays with his feet. And I'd like to see him work to his third and fourth options. With an offensive line that's this good that I really think is going to protect him a lot of this season, he's going to have the time to make those plays. If he can stay composed in the pocket and continue to work his progression, he's going to find a lot of open for the A&M receivers, and we'll really get to see what the Rack boys look like. So I think the sky's the limit for Florida A&M. I don't think many teams are going to be able to touch them. This fall camp has looked good, pretty seamless. You lose Kamari Stevens right before fall camp, but you haven't had any injuries. You still look like the contenders that we thought you were 2 weeks ago. Florida A&M just finished the job at this point. You got 2 Division II opponents on your schedule. You're probably going to wash them. I mean, people talk about the West Florida, and look, they're top 10 D2, of course. But size means something. I think Florida A&M just sits on them until they give up, honestly. Shout out to the Rattlers. I like with their fall camp and how it's going right now. They're doing their thing. We've gone through a lot today. Make sure we got through everything. We went through the MVPs, breakout stars. We went through our quarterback battle at Alabama State. And we also just went through our fall camp updates. All right, so I know I always tease a Thursday show, guys, and I haven't been able to get into it. I'm not going to lie. I haven't been able to get to it. But I think a way to get into it, though, is making Thursdays my D2 days. If I could just give Division II football to Thursdays, I think that'll make our Thursdays work, you know. Keep our 323 Thursdays up. But one thing I will mention is that our watch parties are about to be jumping. They start next week. Week 1 of college football season, we'll begin our watch parties. And our first watch party of the season, funny enough, on a Thursday night is going to be with West Virginia State at Morehead College, right? So West Virginia State, HBCU, down in the PSAC, one of them, PSAC, PEC, NEC is one of them. Anyway, they're going to be playing the game on ESPN Plus on Thursday night at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So, of course, me and the boys will be in there talking about it. Me and my boy Money Manson will be in there discussing the game, going through the X's and O's, getting on the whiteboard, breaking down different fronts, breaking down route combinations, and even talking about more strategy involved in the game. So stay tuned with us. But it's your boy Kelly Flicks. Another week of HBCU Flicks. I believe this is episode 20. Shout out to everybody for rocking with me. But I'm out. Peace.